I'm Liz Faublas, and this is Current. There are new gun controls in New York tonight. The state's politicians winning a race to become the first in the nation to react to the Newtown, Connecticut school massacre. Governor Cuomo called for the new laws just days ago.
No one needs 10 bullets to kill a deer.
The legislature responded to Mr. Cuomo expanding a ban on assault weapons. More are now prohibited, but current gun owners are able to keep theirs as long as they register with the state. Now, besides,
clear thing is we are going to ban assault weapons. We are going to eliminate all of the loopholes that existed previously. And the solution is get those assault weapons off the streets.
Now, besides restricting the rifles, the biggest new provision of the law may also be creating a big new problem. Now, to keep guns away from the mentally ill, doctors and other mental health professionals will be required to turn into the state any mentally ill patients who could be dangerous. The head of medical ethics at Columbia University, Dr. Paul Applebaum, says this measure does great damage to patient confidentiality, making it less likely the mentally ill, especially the homicidal, will seek treatment. The doctor argues hearings should have been held before rushing the new law through. Meanwhile, as the politicians debate controls, schools across the country are rushing to protect their students by arming themselves. In Charleston, South Carolina, police officers now patrol the schools. The school board voted for it. The city will pay the bill, and the school superintendent explains why.
Step to do everything we can to ensure the safety of students and faculty who work in our schools. You can never be over prepared.
In Texas, a school district is arming staff to protect the youngsters. One kindergarten teacher is all for the move.
There are staff members on staff here that I would entrust and feel very safe having them carry concealed handguns.
The state's lieutenant governor wants an armed teacher or administrator in each school, with the state paying for the training. And in Illinois, to keep high school students safe, administrators are being trained to carry firearms. The school superintendent points to two goals.
We want to maybe try to be able to put people in that position where not only can you protect the lives of students and staff members, but you can also eliminate the threat and not lose your life in doing it. I mean, and that's huge.
2 hours away from Dr. Dunnan's school district in Chicago, the mayor, Rahm Emanuel, has a different approach. He's selling stock.
I've ordered all the Chicago pension funds to check any of their investments, and we're going to, if they have it, we're going to divest of any investments they have in any gun manufacturer.
Emanuel once was White House chief of staff, and his old boss is not planning to follow his stock tip. In fact, the president apparently is not planning on much support from Congress either, as he prepares to take action on guns. Word being leaked from Capitol Hill tonight, the president is planning to impose 19 executive actions without congressional approval to restrict guns. He hinted at that yesterday.
How we are gathering data, for example, on guns that fall into the hands of criminals, and how we track that more effectively. There may be some steps that we can take administratively as opposed through legislation.
The president's reluctance to seek congressional approval of his actions comes from the fear that he probably won't get it. The NRA is promising a fight.
You don't want to bet your house on the outcome, but I would say that the likelihood is that they are not going to be able to get an assault weapons ban through this Congress.
Now, this is not the first time the NRA has taken on a White House over gun controls. A dozen years ago, the president was Clinton, his vice president Gore, and in a famous speech still quoted today in the national gun debate, Charlton Heston, the actor and former NRA president, addressed the association's national convention.
So, as we set out this year to defeat the divisive forces that would take freedom away, I want to say those fighting words for everyone within the sound of my voice to hear and to heed, and especially for you, Mr. Gore. From my cold, dead hands.
And his most famous movie role was as Moses in the Ten Commandments. Mr. Heston died in 2008. Nearly every time the government starts talking about more gun controls, gun sales soar. This time is no different.
Hey, Chad, thank you. Take a look inside any firearm shop these days, and it's clear nothing sells guns like the fear of gun control.
Every time the President or Senator Feinstein comes out and talks about restricting Second Amendment rights of U.S. citizens, the phone rings off the hook, the line goes out the door. Gun sales skyrocket.
At Nova Firearms, just outside the nation's capital in Virginia, the AR-15 assault-style rifle is not the only item that's hard to keep in stock. High-capacity magazines are selling fast, too. The store's website warns customers last chance. Due to uncertainty of Obama's potential unilateral AR restrictions, this is the last batch of ARs we will be getting in. Salesman Chuck Nesby says it might surprise people to know who his customers are.
40% of our customer base are females and senior citizens.
Senior citizens?
Senior citizens. Mm-hmm.
They're buying assault rifles?
Absolutely. Absolutely. They're very easy for them to operate.
Last December, the National Shooting Sports Foundation says gun background checks surged nearly 59% over the same month in 2011. At a news conference, President Obama accused the weapons industry of exploiting gun owner fears to whip up sales.
There's probably an economic element to that. It obviously is good for business.
An administration official tells CNN Vice President Joe Biden's task force is expected to recommend a new ban on assault weapons, a limit on high-capacity magazines, and universal background checks on buyers. But the president cautions that's not the same as taking citizens' guns away.
Even the slightest hint of some sensible, responsible legislation in this area fans this notion that somehow here it comes and that everybody's guns are going to be taken away.
Pro-gun groups and conservative websites also fear what's coming. Up on the Michigan Militia website is the warning, "We will oppose all attempts to disarm law-abiding citizens." The National Rifle Association tweeted out a warning from conservative columnist Emily Miller, who said the Obama administration would confiscate weapons if it could.
I think that if Obama had his way and he could somehow put enough people on the streets and do this and go door to door and somehow even, get around the search and seizure laws and go into our houses, yes, I believe that he believes that the only people who should have guns are the military and the police.
We expect to hear from Mr. Obama before the week is over. Up next, Facebook abortions, a holy water arrest, a firebombed church in Belfast. Details on all of that as Currents continues after the break. Welcome back. The bishops of France are urging the government to listen to the streets after the enormous weekend demonstration of up to 1 million people in Paris protesting plans to legalize same-sex marriage and permit homosexual adoptions in the country. The spokesman for the Bishops' Conference says today's questions are the most important and most fundamental facing any society. What is the family? What is marriage? While cautioning against having the streets decide, the bishops are imploring the government to meet its political responsibility and listen. Protest organizers have called for a public referendum. The socialist government of François Hollande says permitting the citizens to vote on the matter would be unconstitutional. The National Assembly is set to debate the issue before month's end. The summertime homily of the Cardinal of Paris is credited with starting the protest movement. In London, strong condemnation of Facebook tonight over advertisements promoting abortion. Many women in England receiving the ads are bewildered, wondering why they are being targeted. Pro-life leaders complain it's all part of making money in the abortion industry. Facebook says they permit, quote, advertising of post-conception advice services. In English, that means they allow abortion advertisements. In Alabama, a 70-year-old woman has been arrested after sprinkling holy water on the public sidewalk outside an abortion clinic. Police report the arrest was not because of that holy water sprinkling. Instead, they were following up on a warrant sworn out by an abortionist who claimed to have been previously sprinkled by the pro-life ladies' holy water. A Catholic church in Belfast, Northern Ireland, has been firebombed, and a hall full of special needs children had to run for their lives in the latest episode of violence between Catholics and Protestants. The only reported injury, a police officer. Growing outburst of troubles this time stems from the flying of a flag, but as we hear now, the differences do go deeper despite efforts to foster peace.
Braving bitter cold, several thousand came to stop Northern Ireland's slide to violence. A peace rally against riots triggered by new limits on flying Britain's Union flag. a cherished symbol for many Protestants of their ties to mainland UK.
Hopefully people will see that we're not all people in Union Jacks throwing stones, that some of us can listen and some of us can hopefully make compromises.
People of Northern Ireland, they don't want what's been happening over the past 5 weeks. They just want the democratic process to continue.
By far the majority here in Northern Ireland want an end to the riots, want the prosperity the 1998 Good Friday peace agreement that ended 3 decades of sectarian violence was expected to bring. But the undercurrents that propel the violence here flow directly from the wider, peaceful Protestant community's unease with that very peace agreement.
Billy Hutchinson, a Protestant and former paramilitary member, convicted in the killing of 2 Catholics nearly 40 years ago, and now a politician, has been at the heart of helping contain the riots. He blames Catholic leaders for tensions.
They signed up this settlement, and now they're talking about it being a process. They signed up this settlement, that's what they signed up to. And the Good Friday Agreement is not about territory, it's about how we live together and how we share, and they've done nothing about living together or sharing.
To see how deep the divide, listen to former IRA paramilitary commander Gerry Adams, now the province's most powerful Catholic politician, who led Catholics into the peace agreement 15 years ago, seeing it as a step toward uniting Northern Ireland with the Republic of Ireland.
We never said it was a settlement. We saw it as an accord. We saw it as agreement on a journey without any actual agreement about the destination. We're avowedly United Irelanders. Were the Unionists asleep? Do they not recognise that we believe that the people of this small island should be united?
In Hutchinson's Union flag-waving community, Protestants appear little prepared for that path. So when Belfast City Council, at the behest of Adam's Sinn Féin party, called for the Union flag to come down, reaction was bitter.
Well, the reason for that is that Sinn Féin have been involved in what's called a de-Britification. In other words, trying to do away with everything that's British in Northern Ireland.
The Union flag, the tip of an iceberg of discontent. Below the surface, the same old issues. The province's future as part of Britain or the Republic of Ireland.
If there's a lesson in any of this, and there are a number of lessons, is that a peace process cannot be taken for granted. It has to be continuously worked at.
29 police officers injured Saturday, the worst violence since the protest began 6 weeks ago. The stakes could not be higher.
Up next, the gifts of a nation as Currents continues after the break. The congressional vote to provide money to recover from Hurricane Sandy is facing roadblocks tonight. The U.S. House has prepared a basic bill to send $17 billion to our area. The governors of New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut are expecting much more. A series of amendments have been written to make up the difference, but some in the House are maneuvering to block the measures. Despite that, Long Island Republican Peter King claims there are enough supporters for passage. The vote is expected sometime today. Now, at the beginning of the broadcast, we reported on the gun control measures being considered in the aftermath of the Sandy Hook Elementary School massacre. A month ago, 20 first graders and 6 teachers were gunned down in their classrooms. The soul of the nation was touched in a very rare way that day, and an outpouring of the heart came from across the country.
Since the shootings 1 month ago, more than 150,000 condolence letters have been sent to Newtown, and these are the volunteers who open and read them.
I am a former public school teacher, a current college professor, an old man, and a grandpa who knows none of you, but my heart breaks for each of you.
After hearing stories of one of the teachers being willing to shield her students, I was inspired. If I die for my future students, I will have lived a worthwhile life.
No one should have to experience the extreme amounts of pain that you have. With all of my love, Rachel.
I have a 6-year-old brother. I couldn't live without him. You will be in my prayers. Those kids never got to live their life. When people say Batman is a superhero, they're wrong. The adults who stood in front of the little kids and got shot are the real superheroes.
The letters come from all over the world. This is from China. This from the UK.
This has saddened the hearts of all around the world. May God watch over you in your time of sorrow. This is from the Davies family and Pullen family in South Wales, Britain.
The letters are heartfelt, meaningful, and emotional. They also often come with money. For example, this one from an Angela Flores in Corey, Pennsylvania. This letter is very thick because it's full of box tops. And she writes, enclosed, although not much, are some box tops for education. And she also enclosed a check for $15 to the Sandy Hook Elementary School. There's also this letter from an Autry Noblet in Frostproof, Florida. And it just contains a $100 check for the PTA. And then there's this letter. It comes from Draper, Utah, the Sanderson children. And this is very touching. It says, "Dear people, I'm sorry about your kids. I feel so bad for you. It feels like there's no Christmas. Here's some money for you." And attached from a 7-year-old named Allie, 4 pennies. The money will go to whomever it's directed to go to. If it's not clear, it will go to charities. As far as the letters go, many are being given to the victims' families. And the others?
I think the letters will become part of our permanent memorial. We know that we've collected all the items that were in our outside memorial to make them into sacred soil or a product like a brick or a block. If they can't be made into soil, that would become part of our permanent memorial.
And then there is this, a huge warehouse full of donations, the majority of which are stuffed animals of every size.
We have just about 48,000 stuffed animals.
48,000. There are also more than 1,800 boxes of school supplies, more than 400 boxes of toys. People from all over the world have sent donations that are meant for the siblings of the children who were killed, and also for the children of Newtown. For example, Barbie bicycles and other bicycles. 51 bicycles have arrived here. And here's Hot Wheels sets. There's about 20 of them. Also, snow sleds. Opening all of this is physically and emotionally overwhelming, but it's also therapeutic and so moving.
Your community has shown great strength during an unspeakable tragedy. It's people like you who inspire humanity.
My heart breaks in 1,000 ways for your pain. I am 83 years old, so my time here is short. When I get to heaven, I will hug and hold your little ones until you get there. This is my solemn promise to you.
Well, out of tragedy often comes goodness. Now we want to report a story where the tragedies are suicides and the goodness comes from a Catholic church in Woodside, Queens. We learn more from the pastor of St. Sebastian's Church.
Back beginning in August, we had a rash of about 4 suicides that took place here in the Woodside Sunnyside area. And it just so happens that I was able to reach out to Project Connect at St. John's University, and we worked together for a couple of months now, really, and put together this presentation. It was a series of tragic events that brought us to today, but as a result of those tragedies, hopefully this presentation today will bring more knowledge to people.
Some of the goals of this presentation is really to just inform people about what are the protective factors, what are the risk factors for suicide, what are some warning signs, so that with that knowledge they can help people who may be experiencing those type of thoughts. And it's also about, another goal is to really just help build a supportive community, because one of the major protective factors for someone who's at risk for suicide is to have social support.
Goals are awareness and being able to identify kind of behavior that might lead somebody to suspect that a person needs help, and then to be able to offer some direction for people to go in where help might be secured.
Today's goals for the presentation is for the community to become aware of different risk factors, maybe protective factors, to try to prevent suicides, or even how to help someone who might be experiencing suicide, and just to learn a little bit more information about suicide, since it's considered, you know, a topic that no one really wants to talk about.
we buried 4 people from St. Sebastian Church, all of whom who had taken their own lives. And so the church is reaching out to people who might be in similar sets of circumstances, people who might feel the need that there's no one else to talk to, that there's nowhere that they can go, and at least if we're able to provide family members and friends, or even individuals themselves, some greater knowledge of what a person is facing who's contemplating suicide, we might be able to be successful today.
Well, the role of the Catholic Church in this presentation and in general with suicide in general is that, you know, Catholic Church, many members come from the community. It is a place where they feel safe, and so knowing that they can come here and learn a little bit more of how to help each other in the community, I think it's very important, and it plays a huge role. You know, many people come to church, so as a way of just talking to someone, even if they don't have anyone else. So it's a sense of community support.
I think that the church is an extremely important part of it because it serves, as Felicia and Jaylene have, you know, emphasized in their presentation, as a support group for people who might be going through difficult times, not just suicide, but any sort of traumatic problem that they might have. They might turn to clergy or people that they've met at the church that they consider, you know, a support system, who share their faith and share their beliefs and might be able to you know, emphasize the important aspects of their life, and the church is there for them. So it is important.
The program is being run together with St. John's University. More information is available on the university's website. Up next, the Pope's feeding of the fish, as Currents continues after the break. Finally tonight, a children's tale about a pond, some fish, and a man in white. Or is it just a tale? We get the answers now.
This storybook includes a tale about 2 redfish that live in a pond and what happens when they discover that a man dressed in white visits them every day. It was written and illustrated by Russian painter Natalia Tsarkova. In addition to being an original story, the book also stands out because it's based on 2 fishes that actually live in a pond at a papal gardens at Castel Gandolfo. The person that feeds them is none other than Benedict XVI.
When I went for a walk around the enchanting gardens at Castel Gandolfo, I was impressed by the intense spirituality of the garden. So out of my heart, a fable was born. A fable that speaks about love, faith, and hope. I really hope this book is read by children all over the world, and that its message gets to the heart of children.
Since the Pope was unable to attend the book's presentation, he sent his personal secretary, Georg Gainswein, who wrote the story's prologue. I wrote the preface first off in an ecumenical aspect because she is not Catholic but Orthodox. But I also did it willingly because I think the book is important and delightful. I suggest people read this small book, read it, and love it. Georg Gainswein said that when he started his ecclesiastical career in a small church in Germany's Black Forest, what he found most difficult was preparing the homilies for children. It's never easy to prepare a homily. Sometimes it turns out great, other times not. It depends on many things, but preparing a homily for children is very difficult because they are very unforgiving. Theological holes, they can trap you. Superficiality, they will point it out right away, and they won't like it or forgive you if you're not sincere. If you are sincere, they forgive everything, but if you're not sincere, you have lost them once and for all. Natalia Tsarkova gave this tale to the Pope as a gift in April of 2012. It is now available to all the children of the world.
And thank you for joining us. We leave you tonight with more of the Holy Father and his fish. For all of us here at Currents, I'm Liz Faublas. Thank you for watching and have a good night.